tell us about the future of gymnastics in the country. We're still on 360 Sport and still talking about gymnastics. I have a man that is well known to gymnastics in the country. That's talking about Michael Cheke. He's a coach, and everything that has to do with gymnastics in the country, if there's one man we need to ask, the man is by my side. It's good to have you on the show after a long while.
Thank you very much, my brother.
So how's been the world of gymnasts?
Well, what can I say? We've been like paused for a bit.
Okay.
But I believe after the elections, we're going to have a fresh start again and have something good to talk about in this country about gymnastics. So
the gymnastic election is ongoing, or is there a date for it?
No, I think it's after the National Sports Festival, because we need an office to run everything, and I believe the federation still stands until after the National Sports Festival in May. Then we'll have a fresh elections, and I believe whoever that's going to be coming in, I don't have a candidate, but whoever is coming in, I believe they're going to work.
Are you vying for a post?
No, right now I've been on my own for a bit to grow my club and make things happen.
Okay, make things happen. Yeah. And if you're just joining us or if you're watching us, those young lads you saw earlier have been trained and coached by Michael Ocheke. So tell us, do you think you still have that future, that name when it comes to gymnastics in Africa?
Yes, let me start with the word yes, because if you look and see, like the little children that you saw a couple of minutes ago, these ones have given themselves to gymnastics, and we train them, build them for the tomorrow. Now that tomorrow we're talking about is not, we came from somewhere yesterday. Our tomorrow then is now, and we never achieved or attained the Olympics. But what we have seen, we've learned from our mistakes. We don't depend on the government for everything, and we see that there's a way out. And when there's a way out, we need to push these kids and make sure they come out to fill up where we did not fill. The Olympics is our goal, and these kids are ready to go there. I am ready, me and my team of coaches, doing our best with the help and assist of their parents, because these are passionate parents that have seen what we can do and believe in their children, believe in our work. So we're working together hand in hand with the parents, and hopefully, possibly, we're going to get there to the Olympics.
Yeah, for someone that we have been to the top when it comes to gymnastics in the country, what are the challenges, even regardless of the support, that you think some of these parents or the lads, the young lads, the boys, the girls are facing, and what are the major challenges for them?
Well, everybody will say money. It is all about finances. You know, if you have a well-equipped gymnastics hall today, and you have all coaches available, the equipments are there, definitely you see these kids doing amazing things. The Europeans, the Asians, they have just one head as we do. I mean, the world was surprised to see a Nigerian in the Olympics, last Olympic. Ucheke was there in Tokyo, sorry, to compete for Nigeria. He was the first Nigerian gymnast to be in the Olympics. Well, fortunately for him, he was born and brought up in the US, where there's facilities and he has some endorsement. Everything was available for him to train. He was training with the best. Simon Biles, the goat of them all, was training in the same gym with Ucheke. So why wouldn't he perform or improve to do that? So if we have some supports, that is why we are doing this. That's why Mayrock Gymnastics is here right now. With the caliber of parents that I have that is pushing in to make sure things work, I am sure we will have a better standard gym in less than no time, where we can train and bring up gymnasts that will represent this country, and not just represent this country, but get medals, even at the Olympics.
You've been organizing tournaments. I mean, now TV360 was one tournament in Ilukweju for some time in the past, and we also know that several tournaments we've always come when it comes to you organizing tournament. But we also know that there's a tournament coming up in June, in April 12th. Right? What's the purpose of the tournament? Is it going to be different from every other tournament?
Okay, that's a very good question. Thank you, Mr. Model. The thing is, we've attended so many competitions lately. Now, I will give it up for all those organizers. They have been trying their best to do well. In fact, it's more better than what we'll get at the national level. Understand me? With no disrespect.
No disrespect.
But you know, at the national level, everything that is depending on what the ministry is giving. So they have to manage the funds to organize the competitions, and these are national levels. But what we do here at the club level, it's amazing. The organizing is very, very tough. But even still, what we get from there, I think it's not enough. So from what we've gathered so far, from what we've seen, our experience, we want to show the world that Nigeria is still a sporting nation, a nation where gymnastics can thrive. You know, it is not a competition where we just come and just do those jamboree because it's a level system. No, you come, what you get, what you do is what you get. The judges, professional judges, the atmosphere we're going to be using, the podium, the hall, the equipment. It's going to be amazing. We want to discover talent. The award, we're going to be awarding the best gymnasts, both cash award and sponsorship. You know, we were looking to take gymnastics to another level. So when people come for this competition and they see what they will see, they will go back and make sure they are going to improve in what they will be doing too.
Another thing I also noticed about your career and also is that some of your gymnasts and they end up representing states in the national level at the youth games. I don't know how true it is, but Lagos is probably going to host the next national youth games next year. That was from the governor of the state doing an interview. If that happens or if it doesn't happen, are you expecting some of this your gymnasts to also represent that? Because that's one thing about what I know you do. So is there going to be, apart from the ones we know already, are there going to be new faces that will represent various states? Because I know there's a certain time one lady represented Kano State, and I'm sure that's from you. Some other states, where, you know. So are we also expecting that? Because that's going to be the best. Where after the gymnast, and we say, oh, this girl was here, and she's now representing Lagos State and all that.
Thank you very much. You see, for a couple of years now, what I do is, I am a team of coaches. We train the gymnasts. We make sure they are ready for competitions, not just competing, for winning. And we push them to different states. We don't just put them in one state and just let that state take all the glory. We say, okay, you and you compete for this state, you and you compete for the other state, and at the end of the day, what you win, the glory goes to the states, each of the states. And for a while, I've been in Lagos, and even the facility I'm using, one of the facilities we're using as a club, it's a facility of Lagos State. You know, and for us to be doing that, we need to give back to Lagos State. I have an understanding with the secretary of the state's Gymnastics Association, and I told her that yes, we're going to give you good gymnasts that will get medals at the next National Youth Games, which we're working on, and I believe that will come to a manifest.
Thinking about the future, lastly, before I let you go, and tell us more. Tell us more about the date and the time of that gymnastic, because you've told us the benefit of it. Tell us when it's taking place and the exact moment and time.
It's going to be on the 12th of April this year, and in fact, we're looking at next weekend, after this weekend, the next weekend, and it's going to be taking place at Beehive School in Agidingbi, Keja.
Yes. How many schools, how many gymnastic shows we expect?
We're expecting nothing less than 200 gymnasts, and we are expecting parents and judges and coaches from different parts of Nigeria, from Abuja.
A day event?
Yes, it's going to be a day event. There are clubs coming from Abuja, there are clubs coming from Ondo State, Akure, and Port Harcourt, and the rest are from Lagos here. And I believe it's going to be a massive event. These numbers are for clubs. Schools numbers we are not certain yet, but I believe it will be probably around 60 to 70. So in a nutshell, we're looking at more than 270 gymnasts.
What has been the motivating factor? I need to ask you, because you know I was saying, you gymnastics and all that.
You can see
what has been the motivating factor?
Gymnastics to me is a life, not a job. You know, when I was little, when I was studying gymnastics early 90s, I wanted to go to the Olympics. I have this dream. I trained to a level whereby they compared me to the best in the world as a then on floor. Now, on floor and votes, I was the best in the country. Not just best in the country, in the continent, I was the best. But I didn't go to the Olympics. I didn't make it to the Olympics. It was unfortunate. Even my wife, when she started training, her goal was to get to the Olympics, but no. I led my team to the first ever team medal in Congo Brazzaville 2015. I was a captain and I led my team. So did my wife in 2019. She was a captain of the female team, and she led them to their first ever medal too at a bronze medal. Yes, but unfortunately we couldn't go. Now my children, I want to take them and other kids I'm training to that same Olympics. I want to go there. That is my drive. Okay. If I didn't go there to win, I will go there as a coach to compete. Okay. If my gymnasts are winning, then I'm more than a winner.
Yeah. It's good to have you on the show. Thank you very much, Michael Chike.
Glad to be here.
Obviously, we'll be talking to you during the events and afterwards about the events. Thank you very much for being part of the show. Okay. It's a moment of gymnastics for those of us who are watching you, and if you want to be part of the show, you can join us on all our social media platforms to be part of where the conversation never ends. And let's not forget, April 12 is a day you need to keep in mind where gymnastic events is taking place, and we'll probably get the reports of some of these stories on our news bulletin about the event that's taking place in April 12. Thank you very much. Muda Shishitu, thanks for watching.
في عدد كبير من المتهمين كانوا داخل السجون لفترات طويلة. عشان يحددوا لك الجلسة انت بتكون الليلة كاملة ما نمت. فنحن برضو بنجي نتكلم معاهم وبنطمنهم انه الحاجة اللي ربنا كاتبها لك ما بتفوتك، وانت قعدت زمن طويل ومنتظر اليوم ده. الليلة اليوم ده جاء وانت خليك جاهز له، والزمن اللي بديك له القاضي ده زمن محدد. انت حاول تذكر فيه كل الأحداث واحكيها بنفس تفاصيلها عشان القاضي يقدر ياخذ قرار في الحاجة دي ويقدر يساعدك.
We hope that the government will prepare an implementation mechanism to ensure that the recommendations of the Judicial Reform Committee are implemented in a graduated manner, subject of course to availability of funds and availability of personnel. But this will lead to a comprehensive development and extension of justice system in this country, which all political parties and all parts of society agree is the utmost necessity of this country.
Hello and welcome. The Edo State Governorship Election Petition Tribunal has finally affirmed the election of Governor Monday Okpewolo and the All Progressives Congress APC as the duly elected governor and party in the September 21st, 2024 governorship poll in Edo State. The three-man panel of the tribunal sitting in Abuja upheld the election as being validly conducted just as it dismissed the petition brought before it by Asue Ighodalo and the People's Democratic Party. Now, earlier, the panel had also dismissed the petitions, I should say, of the Action Alliance and Accord Party. Chairman of the tribunal, Justice Wilfred Pochi, delivered the landmark judgment. Among others, the tribunal held that the petition has failed to prove overvoting and also failed to call relevant witnesses. Besides, Justice Pochi asserted that Ighodalo and PDP did not speak to the documents they tendered. Instead, the documents were dumped on the tribunal. Now, to prove overvoting, according to the tribunal, the two petitioners are required by law to tender the voters' register, I should say, BVAS, and the Form EC8A, which they did not do according to the requirements of the law. The tribunal chairman also held that no eyewitnesses were called to testify on alleged overvoting and such, making the allegations unbelievable. Now, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, had last year declared Okpewolo and APC winners of the governorship election, having polled a majority votes of 291,667 to defeat his closest rival, Asue Ighodalo of the PDP, who garnered 247,655 votes. Not satisfied with the declaration, the PDP and Ighodalo has actually sued INEC now, praying for the nullification of Okpewolo's victory on the grounds of irregularities and non-compliance with the electoral laws. Well, joining me on the program right now to shed more light, I should say, on this is Libros Oshoma, who is a legal practitioner. Libros, thank you very much for coming on the show at such a short notice. Now, any surprise at all at the outcome of this petition, ruling, so the outcome of the petition, so to speak?
No surprises. Thank you, and thank you, Deji. No surprises at all. I had told people I have been doing election petition matters since 2003, and specifically I've represented INEC in election petitions in 2011, 2015, 2019, 2023. And so, for proving election irregularity, especially for governorship and the presidential election in Nigeria, is a tall order because the Supreme Court has set, rules and standards. And some of us also believe that as a petitioner, proving election irregularity within 6 months is a very difficult thing to do. And then I do not know. Most times you find lawyers who were lawyers for respondents in previous petitions, now taking up petitions as petitioners. And, so when I saw the petition and I saw the number of witnesses called, and the fact that some of them were jubilated that INEC didn't call witness, that the PDP was jubilated that INEC did not call any witness, I laughed because I've represented INEC and I've been in similar circumstances. When you have not proved overvoting or you have not proved irregularity, why will INEC be calling witnesses? So the moment INEC didn't call witnesses and being, somebody who has also represented INEC in similar circumstances, I just knew that the petition was dead on arrival. And so, also, if you remember the case of Kano State and that of, I think, was it Zamfara? They are similar. And then the one that we can easily remember was that of Osho, where the APC was the petitioner and the PDP was the respondent. It was the same thing that played out. And the court had consistently talked about dumping of materials. You allege irregularity in 100 polling unit, and then you call, 9 witnesses to prove those irregularities. And even if those irregularities are proven in those 9 polling units, the court had always ruled that it's not substantial enough. But in this case, you find out that the witnesses are even collation agents, and not even a polling unit agent. And then you say you don't have a problem with the polling unit. Where you have a problem is the collation. Then certainly, your case will be dead on arrival. I think that's basically what happened. When you have a problem with collation and then you are not able to also, like the Supreme Court ruled in Oshun's case, you must resort to the primary evidence. The primary evidence in this case is the BVAS machine. And you must show the record, the BVAS machine must be examined in open court to show truly that this was the result scored at the polling unit, and then that this is different from the results that were recorded for you at the collation center. Failure to prove those results as shown on the BVAS machine at the tribunal by witnesses who were agents at the polling unit will amount to hearsay evidence and will be discountenanced by the courts.
Something the tribunal said, and I want you to react to that, is that, the tribunal chairman specifically held that no eyewitnesses were called to testify on alleged overvoting, and as such, making the allegations unbelievable. I know that the case of the PDP was really anchored on this issue of overvoting. So quite a surprise that the witnesses that got there did not actually speak to the issue of overvoting.
What I said was that when they talk about overvoting, they've said also that they're disputing the election on the ground of on the fact that collation, discrepancies in collation.
Yeah.
And so that's why I said specifically that is similar to what happened in Osun. So in that case, the Supreme Court has said, what do? You call eyewitnesses that we are the polling unit, your polling unit agent, and then also you must tender the BVAS machine for examination, and the BVAS machines must be examined in open court to show that the results that were recorded for you at the polling unit is different from the result that was recorded for you at the collation center. Once you're able to show those discrepancies, because now it is the BVAS machines that are used to record the votes. But in this case, when you call collation agent, but you refuse to call the polling unit agent to show that truly there are two results. This is the result from the polling unit. There's discrepancies between what was recorded at the polling unit and what was recorded at the collation center. And then you went ahead just only to call collation agent without calling the polling unit agent, first and foremost, establish the actual vote garner. Then certainly it will be hearsay because the collation agent was not at the polling unit where the vote was cast. And the polling unit agent is the primary source of witness. It's witness who give the primary source of evidence. And that's basically what court had consistently maintained. So, but the naysayers will always say, oh, is it not Nigerian judiciary and the rest? But over time, it has the court had made it very difficult the Supreme Court had made it very difficult for courts to interfere in election once the result had been announced. And because also the results are presumed regular once they are announced, court also made it very difficult for any court to interfere in those results. That's basically what has played out.
What about the case of the AA now? That's the Action Alliance and the Accord Party. In the case of Action Alliance, you saw the way it played out.
The Action Alliance was a rabble-rouser who should have even been in tribunal. They didn't feed any candidate. And then they brought an election petition matter. And we know that by virtue of, I think, Section 131 of the Electoral Act, you must be a candidate in an election before you can feed because you can file election petition. And so that one was just one of the rabble-rousers. And therefore, Accord Party, a party that scored 200 and something votes, is challenging an election, where they didn't even win one polling unit. So it was, for me, those were just busybodies.
Now, the PDP has said it is going to appeal. It's heading to the Court of Appeal. Do you see this case going up to the Supreme Court? Obviously. Yes,
certainly politicians will always get to the Supreme Court. But what I think it is just a way of encouraging supporters so that supporters will not say that they have been compromised. But they know that there is no merit in their petition, really, from what we had seen from the beginning.
Now, just before I let you go, let me ask you this. You know that the National Assembly is trying to amend the Constitution, especially at the House of Reps now. You know that bill is before the House of Reps, to stop governorship election petitions now at the Court of Appeal as we used to have it before, rather than have it go up to the Supreme Court.
I would rather that it start at the Court of Appeal and terminate at the Supreme Court because we're going back, the mischief that was intended to cure, we're just going back to it, a situation where you have conflicting judgment on the same set of facts. We're just going to go back to that. So the governorship election can start at the Court of Appeal and terminate at the Supreme Court. That way, the Supreme Court is able to deal with all of the issues, and put a finality to it. Unlike what you have, where in Rivers, the Court of Appeal will give a different judgment and the facts are similar. In Edo, it will be different. But over time, the Supreme Court has streamlined and is being consistent with the Supreme Court. So I would rather that the matter will start at the Court of Appeal and terminate at the Supreme Court instead of this idea going back, after we have cured the mischief, we'll go back to the same mischief.
Well, Libros Oshoma, thank you very much for coming on the program and speaking to us on this issue. Thanks a lot for your time.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
All right, we'll take a short break and we'll be right back. Stay with us, don't go away.
Opinions are free, facts are sacred, but truth is universal.
How, in practical terms, can we, for instance, de-escalate the tension?
When you go into public office, you must be ready to answer to the people.
We know where the enemy is. 3 places. The Lake Chad Basin, the border area between Nigeria and Cameroon, and then the Sambisa Forest.
On TV360, we give you a complete dose of everything. Opinion, facts, and undiluted truth.
I hardly believe what politicians are saying in this part of the world.
A new Nigeria is possible, a future is possible.
We delve into the issues, dissect it so that you can understand it, and use it to take action.
I don't think there's any need for any governor to look for grant for ranching.
TV360, dissecting the issues.
All right, I'm now being joined on the program by Kasim Afegwa, who is, of course, a chieftain of the APC in Edo State, a former commissioner of information in the state, and a former member of the Presidential Campaign Council. That's in the 2023 presidential election. Mr. Afegwa, thank you very much for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, so victory for your party, but did you see this coming? I mean, considering that before the court...
We all saw it. No, we saw it coming, Deji. There is no need to even belabor the issue. We had stated ab initio that the circumstances leading to that election were not conducive enough for an Obaseki to win election or produce a successor in Aswae Godalo. You don't have a party that was heavily factionalized, a party that was, soaked in turmoil, political turmoil. And you will expect such a party to approach the election with unanimity of purpose. It doesn't work that way. Obaseki was very quarrelsome, he was very combative. He created divisions. You have PDP 1, PDP 2, PDP 3. You have PDP legacy. You have legacy PDP. All kinds of, it was quarreling with the urban opinion, quarreling with this, quarreling with that. That kind of scenario for a state that is very, very enlightened, like Edo State, where the average councillor can speak English, where the average organizer can articulate, what he wants. So he wasn't, Obaseki and his candidate were not, in a proper position to champion or further the yearnings and aspirations of Edo people. So we needed a homeboy. From the one we said this, we needed a homeboy whose subliminal humility was very profound and is very profound, and who does not, look at Edo as a visiting place. He has a place in his village, Irua. He has been doing things, to add value to the economy of the state. He was a senator. He contested the election. He scored 42,000 votes. And I told people, I said, before the election, I said he's in a pole position to win the election because he had already contested the election. He has gotten 42,000 people from Edo Central. That means anybody who was contesting with him will have to prepare, double prepare. And here you had Aswae Godalo. They call him a boardroom merchant. That's okay. He can continue to be a boardroom merchant in blue chip companies. But when it comes to politics, our people, our Edo people, They are very vibrant, they are very enlightened, they are very brilliant, they are very forward-looking. They will look for somebody they have access to, they can connect with, you know. And Monday Okpebolo fits into that equation. So that's why when they were going to tribunal, we told them that it's going to be mere waste of time.
Now they have decided they are going to appeal against this ruling. Does it give you any cause for concern?
No for concern. You see, Deji, you need to listen to the judge or the justices of the tribunal. They were very thorough in their legal explanation. And what they've said also set a new tone for legal jurisprudence in terms of political litigations or electoral litigations. They draw their inferences from the Electoral Act, the Constitution of the country, and other enabling acts, and even verdicts of Supreme Court on issues as similar as this. And their position is very clear. Deji, you cannot complain of overvoting when you have not advanced evidence to buttress same. You cannot dump the Beaver's machine on the tribunal and you want the tribunal to produce the key to unlock Beaver's machine. What is inside that electronic device? You have to explain to people. They talk about certified true copy. INEC brought results and everything, and the results they brought were certified true copy. And they said, we don't need to present any witness. This is the outcome of the election. This is our result. You that you are contradicting or trying to controvert what INEC presented, you ought to provide for the tribunal superior arguments backed by evidence. You didn't do that, and you wanted the tribunal to grant you justice. You are complaining of outcome of election results in 765 polling units. Yeah. You are presenting 19 witnesses. Out of the 19 witnesses, you only had 5 who are polling unit agents. Deji, how would they confirm or even back up evidence to support claim of overvoting in 765 polling units? This is just common sense. Simple law. Even elementary lawyers or elementary law by baby lawyers, they will concede easily to this, that man, this was a bad case for the PDP. And I will advise Aswe Godalo, because I wouldn't want him to be wasting money. Since they say he's very rich and he's a boardroom maestro, he should just go back to his businesses and save us the agony of going to waste money and hiring lawyers to go to the Court of Appeal. What is so attractive in Edo all these years? He was part and parcel of Obaseki's misrule. They plundered the Edo state, like in a custodial manner. I served in the asset verification committee of the state, where we try to look into all of the wellness and the state of affairs of the state. And we marvel at the level of discovery that we saw. So I wouldn't know. Edo people are very wise. We have since told them. We want a governor who is a homeboy, not all these Lagos cowboys who are economic predators and buccaneers coming to feast on our collective patrimony. We won't continue to indulge in all kinds of shenanigans. So for God's sake, if he wants to go to Court of Appeal, it's okay, but I'll see that as a waste of time. Because those people have already, they are already in sync with Monday Okpebolo as a governor who is already performing. He's already building flyover, he's building roads, he's constructing schools. The schools they touted of having done. We saw the dilapidated buildings. You have seen visuals of very rotten state of our schools. They call it Edo Best, Edo this. We just pay 160 million to one consultant every month, doing nothing. So, for God's sake, we've moved on. We have moved beyond Court of Appeal. We have moved beyond Supreme Court. We have moved into the hearts of Edo people. And Edo people appreciate Governor Okpebolo for what he has been doing in the last 4 months. But
there's no doubt. I mean, you must expect that the Supreme Court would have a say on this issue along the road, down the road. Do you expect that?
Supreme Court will have a say, no doubt. But the kernel of this judgment also derived from previous verdicts of the Supreme Court, which are also part of our body of laws. So the Supreme Court cannot generate something out of nothing. What we have gotten at the tribunal is suggestive of the fact that the PDP, ab initio, had no strong case. And when you are advancing from the tribunal to the higher court, you are not going to be advancing fresh evidence. It is what was presented at the lower court that they will interrogate. And we are not going to present any fresh witness. You have already presented your 19 witnesses, 5 are only unit agents, 14 others are just neither here nor there. They dwell so much on hearsay evidence. You know, election litigations are very technical, exercises. Very, very technical indulgence, such that if you are not prepared to go the whole hog and supply evidence, you don't have to belabor yourself going to the tribunal. And I told you before that even PDP in its own situation room record, I have a letter to that effect written by Azegbemi to INEC national chairman asking for a review of the election. They tabulated the results of INEC, they tabulated the result of their situation room. And in their situation room result, we won by 4,963. But they are quarreling that why would the gap be 40 something? So they were trying to be clever by half, asking for invalidation of some polling units so that it can cancel out 4,963. That was what they were trying to do, trying to be clever by half. And the tribunal said, but you have not advanced reasons. A polling unit agent is a good eyewitness because he stays there to count. And don't forget that these results that they are complaining about were signed by their agents. The ones that they complain about, some of them, INEC on its own had already, cancelled those results from polling units. So when we presented 4 witnesses, they were laughing at us. They didn't know that we knew what we were doing because we are the victors. Well, we won the election. We don't need to belabor ourselves trying to prove to anybody because the results from INEC were already presented before the tribunal. The onus of proof rests squarely on the shoulders of the PDP. They didn't do that. So when you are advancing to appeal court and Supreme Court, you are not going to be generating this. And if they are thinking that they can buy their way through, they will be joking.
Let me ask you this final question. Just hours before the tribunal issued its judgment, I mean, there were obviously fake judgments that circulated on social media. What do you make of that?
You can see that what was leaked was completely different from it was completely different.
So what do you think would have been the intention?
PDP wanted to create a scenario or try to generate a judgment that will.
Are you saying PDP was? Are you saying PDP was behind it?
Yes, of course. PDP was behind that. They wanted to sell a fake judgment to the justices so that they will back it up. They will back it up with money. I told you before. I wrote an article that sometimes 3-4 weeks ago they tried to assemble in one SAN's office, I won't mention the name, where they agreed that they were going to raise 3 billion naira. At the end of the day, I wouldn't know whether they were able to raise that money, but in this game, those justices were very, very categorical that everybody should stay away from them. They want to address this issue on point of law. Law is law. If you cannot argue your case from the point of law, you don't need to belabor yourself trying to look for huge money somewhere to come and bribe them and all that. I think we must commend Justice Wilfred Akpochi's led tribunal. If you listen to him at the tribunal, they took time about 6 hours, maybe 7, to read out the judgment. And if you see point of law, they granted some of their motions. They granted 4 of our motions. The 8 motions were being canvassed, 4-4. But the issues of overvoting, the issues of overvoting, electoral fraud and what have you, they couldn't prove their case. And so it fell flat like a pack of cards. And so that's why the tribunal said they lacked merit because they couldn't have generated. They couldn't have generated. They could not have generated this thing for them. So that's the position.
All right. Kasim Afegwa, thank you very much for coming on the show and thanks for talking to us. Appreciate it.
Thank you very
We'll take a
much.
short break and we'll be right back. Stay with us, don't go away.
Opinions are free, facts are sacred, but truth is universal.
How, in practical terms, can we, for instance, de-escalate the tension?
When you go into public office, you must be ready to answer to the people.
We know where the enemy is. 3 places. The Lake Chad Basin, the border area between Nigeria and Cameroon, and then the Sambisa Forest.
On TV360, we give you a complete dose of everything. Opinion, facts and undiluted truth.
I hardly believe what politicians are saying in this part of the world.
A new Nigeria is possible, a future is possible.
We delve into the issues, dissect it so that you can understand it, and use it to take action.
I don't think there's any need for any governor to look for grant for ranching.
TV360, dissecting the issues.
Well, let's get the perspective of a PDP chieftain now, and I'm being joined on the program from Benin City, that's the capital of Edo State, by the former spokesperson of the Aswe Ogie Campaign Council in the 2023 governorship election. That's Tony Alile. Mr. Alile, thank you very much for joining us on the program. Give me your take on the outcome of your petition at the tribunal.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Well, as far as I'm concerned, the lower tribunal has given their verdict, and I believe everyone has since moved on to the next level, of the of the case. Like every other one that I know that have spoken as regard the verdict of the lower tribunal, we are not really surprised because of the thing that goes on right now. I don't want to be too specific, but I'll try as much as possible to carry my listeners and the viewers along as to the point that they can understand. Since we are still having two layers of of the judiciary to have encounter with. So some of us need to be very careful about how we really feel on this lower tribunal's verdict. Our party and our candidate will definitely go for an appeal, and I'm sure that that process is ongoing at the moment. Because there are 1,001 grounds for appeal to overturn the ruling of the lower tribunal, as earlier presented by all our attorneys during this tribunal period.
But when you say that you were not surprised at the outcome, what exactly would you mean?
I need to be specific on this particular time. Throughout the tribunal period, throughout the period of calling witnesses, the period of submitting various forms of evidence, the state chairman of the APC here in Edo State posted severally that all PDP did were to dump evidence, and they did not call witnesses from the unit. If you follow this trial very well from the beginning, you will understand that at no time did any of our lawyer mention anything about the unit other than for reference purposes. We were challenging the collation of result at the local government level, and the state level. Everything that came from the unit we didn't have a problem with. Where we had problem with was not compliance in some of these some of these unit compliance with the Electoral Act, which was well and explicitly explained by our great lawyers. And the second thing that we asked for was for them to cancel the result from the units where overvoting took place. And we were able to prove that there were sufficient reason to cancel those units because of the overvoting. And this was even corroborated by some of the witnesses called by the third and the fourth respondent.
But then the tribunal ruled that your party was not.
I'm coming, sir. I'm going to a point.
Yeah.
The judges overlooked all of this and deliver a judgment based on what the state chairman of the party has always boasted of, that PDP dumped evidence without explanation, and they could not call anybody from the union, and that was the basis of the verdict that came from the lower tribunal.
So you're literally saying that
from the appeal up, and I'm sure the appeal is going to take time to look at all the things presented, and joy is coming. We're not giving up.
So you're literally saying that the opinion of the APC chairman in Edo State was the basis of that judgment. That was what the judge used to form the basis of their judgment. Is that what you're saying?
There is an adage in Benin that says, when the witches have their meeting this night and the following morning a child passed away, are you going to call me to tell you who did that? So let us leave that to our scholars.
There were three judges. There were three judges in that panel. So all of them could have been swayed to go the same way.
Could that have been a coincidence that all that was being said outside of the tribunal became the basis for the judgment?
Now,
like I said, we have things moved beyond the lower tribunal. We are already, taking it to the appeal, and we are hoping that the appeal will take time to look at the evidences presented by our lawyers and this testimony, the statements from our witnesses and the collaborative statements from their witnesses. Those are the things that we are asking for. We are not asking for too much.
No, and I asked, you think that the comments of the APC chairman in the state could have swayed three judges to go in the same direction?
That is what I'm saying, that is up to individuals' opinion. As Brigadier, I brought up a matter that looks so similar that I refuse to call a coincidence. So everyone is free to form their opinion based on how they look at it.
What do you think went wrong for you in that election? What do you think your party did not do right?
Well, yeah, this is a very good question. PDP as a political party, prelude into that election, did all that was needed to be done to win the election. And as far as I'm concerned, because I was a principal player in that election, I was a center head, was in charge of about 5 units, that I saw the voting pattern. I was in contact with all those that I can talk to across board, not only in Oredo local government where I hail from, I was talking to people, and calls were coming in from everywhere, how the election was going on smoothly. We are politicians. We know when election is not going your way. It doesn't have to be the instant reaction from your polling center. It is about the core, the feelings. It's out there. This election was won by Asue Ighodalo, hands down. If there is anything in this life that you can use to prove how convinced one is about a situation, I would have done it. I could put my life on it that Asue Ighodalo won the election. But what really went against us was the same problem that the PDP is facing right now at the national. Minor issues that could have been settled amicably and move on. With, sometimes, not just PDP, happens in almost all the political parties. They take it to the extreme. PDP could have been able to put their house together, settle with, all the plans. As it stands today in Edo State, other than Asue Ighodalo, and maybe the past governor, and a few other persons, all the big political wigs are out of PDP. It is the people that are with the PDP today. If election is to be held again today, the people will still come out en masse and vote for PDP because of the developmental stride of the past administration. But to say PDP as a political party, we are losing it. I made bold to say that we are losing it. We stayed back for too long to allow people that benefited so much from this party to be fighting us. Look at what is happening in Abuja. One man has just seized the party, cook up the acting national chairman, and the party cannot even move forward. We have tried to call the next meeting for more than 5 times, and it's not happening. And no major decision can be taken without the next meeting. It's the same problem that we are facing here in Edo State. So I don't see PDP as a political party, though you did not ask me that question, but I got to throw it in, as a political party from the national that is prepared to wrestle with the present government. They are not looking to be strong, to be prepared to put their hands together, to be a formidable opposition to this present government. That is why you see some people are descending right now. A lot of people are running to SDP. Don't be surprised SDP might end up becoming the political vehicle that is going to gather all the other political parties together to form a very strong alliance to challenge this government in the coming election.
Can I ask you this?
Answer your question that
yes,
we won the election, we had the people, but the things that happens between the local government coalition center to the state coalition center are things done by seasoned politicians.
Can I also?
We didn't have at that time. We didn't have them. We got to face the truth. We didn't have them. We could not protect we could not protect our mandate. That is what happened to us.
Fact is, your party went into that election as a divided house. I mean, there's no doubt about it. Before the election, there were problems and all of that. Especially the governor at the time, I'm talking about Godwin Obaseki, had a lot of problems with members of the party within and all of that. Don't you think those problems you had militated against your chances of winning, and that somehow the former governor did not help matters at all in terms of giving you the opportunity to really concentrate and go on to win the election? You had too many fights within the party.
In fairness, I have to agree with you to some extent. The crisis that was within the PDP's rank at that time, preparatory to the election, had so many ways that affected our election. I mentioned it earlier, if I want to be very blunt about it. The method that the APC used in that election, let me use the word, to hijack the local government returning officers and take them to the state coalition center without the presence of other political parties can only be carried out by the seasoned politicians in the state, which at that time, PDP has very little of them. So it was, in Edo State here, we call it a Kun case. It was a Kun case. It was a thing that was properly put together and they executed it. So they got it.
Can I ask you this? With the benefit of hindsight, now, do you think that fight between the governor and his deputy at the time, do you think it was necessary? Don't you think it could have been better handled? Because that also works heavily against you.
I don't want to also agree. I don't want to agree with you that the misunderstanding between the governor and the deputy governor led to to what happened during that election. Of course, everyone matters, So long as you are a voter, you matter in election time, so you cannot easily be discarded. But having said that, I think that issue could have been properly managed by the two gentlemen involved. I can say that the two of them took to extreme positions, and the result was a fallout. But any of these things, all of these things that happened within that period is a big lesson for every political party, to learn from and know how to put their house together when they are going into election. But I must not take one thing away from the PDP. The Edo people actually voted for the PDP. Edo people came out to appreciate Obaseki's achievement by giving their vote to the candidate of Obaseki's party. And it shows in all records. The case is already with the appeal right now, I'm sure. So we just hope and believe on what the appeal is going to look at. So that's what I have to say about that.
All right, Mr. Tony Alile, thank you very much for coming on the program, and thanks for sharing your thoughts and giving us some of your time. Really appreciate it.
So much. God bless you.
Thank you. I will take a short break and we'll be right back. Stay with us. Don't go away.
Opinions are free, facts are sacred, but truth is universal.
How, in practical terms, can we, for instance, de-escalate the tension?
When you go into public office, you must be ready to answer to the people.
We know where the enemy is. 3 places. The Lake Chad Basin, the border area between Nigeria and Cameroon, and then the Sambisa Forest.
On TV360, we give you a complete dose of everything. Opinion, facts, and undiluted truth.
I hardly believe what politicians are saying in this part of the world. A new Nigeria is possible, a future is possible.
We delve into the issues, dissect it so that you can understand it, and use it to take action.
I don't think there's any need for any governor to look for grant for ranching.
TV360, dissecting the issues.
Welcome back. Now, let's discuss some more politics, and this time with the Labour Party. In a unanimous judgment delivered on Friday, the Supreme Court has set aside the judgment of the Court of Appeal in Abuja, which recognized Julius Abure as the national chairperson of the Labour Party. A 5-member panel held that the Court of Appeal lacked jurisdiction to have affirmed Abure as chairman of the Labour Party, since the substance of the case was about the party's leadership. It also held that the issue of leadership was an internal affair of a party over which courts lacked jurisdiction. The court allowed the appeal filed by Nenadi Usman, a former senator representing Kaduna South, and held that they were meritorious. It then proceeded to dismiss the cross-appeal filed by the Abure faction of the Labour Party for lacking in merit. However, the Supreme Court's ruling deepens the Labour Party's internal leadership crisis as questions remain over who holds legitimate authority within the party. Both factions in the party are claiming victory of the judgment. While one side says the judgment means Abure still remains chairman of the party, the caretaker committee of the party says the judgment means Abure has been sacked. Joining me now to understand all of this is a legal practitioner, Malaki Ogumadu, who joins us from another part of Lagos. Malaki, thank you very much. Help us to understand this judgment by the Supreme Court, because to be candid, even myself, I'm actually confused. I really don't understand it. What exactly does it mean? We have the Supreme Court saying, look, the Court of Appeal lacks jurisdiction to have entertained the matter in the first place. The Court of Appeal also held a similar view over the judgment now that came from the Federal High Court. So what then is the exact situation, or what should be the exact situation of things in the Labour Party? What does this judgment mean?
Well, let's be modest enough and accept that there's so much ambivalence out there regarding what has happened. This is precisely why, in most cases, we refrain from making commentaries when we have not read the road order or the full judgments of court. I must confess that I haven't seen the judgment. I've been in the court all the day, but as it stands now, what I could gather from snippets of the reportage that has gone into this is to the effect that the Supreme Court has had the opportunity to entertain this matter as the Apex Court and Final Court, and came to the conclusion that the lower courts, albeit the Federal High Court, presided over by Justice Emeka Nwite, and the Court of Appeal of Abuja Division, ought not to entertain the matter, having regards to the fact that the matter revolves squarely around the issue of leadership of the political party, and came to the conclusion that plethora judicial authorities exist in support of the view that leadership of political parties are internal affairs of the political party.
But isn't that confusing?
Ought to decline jurisdiction.
Sorry, Malaki, but isn't this confusing? If the court lacks jurisdiction over the leadership of a political party, and then you have a contestation or a contention, the leadership in question is in contention. You have two sides now, pulling at themselves over who is actually the legitimate leadership of the party. How do you then resolve that? I mean, take a look at the Labour Party crisis, for instance. You have clearly two leadership, parallel leadership, one not recognizing the other not giving way at all for the other as well. How then do you resolve this issue? Okay, now the Supreme Court has said, look, the courts lack jurisdiction to intervene, to even do anything about it. So how then does the issue get resolved? How does it get resolved? How do we know who the authentic leadership of the party is?
You are very experienced in this whole thing that all your questions are to be taken not just seriously, but with deep introspection. Here is the point. You see, the whole idea of political activity around political parties is to ascertain the desire of the people, not the wish of the court, not the discretion of the court, not the expectation of the judiciary in erecting leadership. So the question you have asked asks us as not just lawyers, but political scientists to now consider the bigger question as to where would contestants, where would adversaries go to, where the issue of leadership of a political party arise. And if we claim to be citizens of a country in the Committee of Civilized Nations, it is expected that where disputation arises, whether in political parties or outside political parties, they have the judiciary to resort to. That is the expected position. But the Nigerian court and in the development of the jurisprudence of our legal system have found that what politicians do most often than not, and to the discredit of party politics, is to leave that arena that involves the participation of the people to choose leadership and ascertain the will of the people, and then resort to court. So what the courts have done over time in trying to mitigate this penchant for excessive litigation is to now make pronouncements over time and with respect to other life cases that where the issue has to do with the emergence of leadership of a political party, it can only be resolved within that political party and not outside the political party. And therefore, issues squarely around proper leadership of a political party cannot come to court. In other words, an exemption has been made with respect to the emergence of leadership of a political party as to the general concept of ubi jus, ubi remedium. In other words, once there is a wrong, there must be a remedy right in court. In this instance, it behoves the political parties who are expected to be able to organize themselves within the confines of the rules that they have agreed to bind them, and through the participation of members of the political party to enthrone leadership. In fact, I think that the idea is to continually remain focused on creating leadership through the people. It can be extended to believe and argue that in the same vein, efforts are being made to ensure that what becomes of the outcome of elections generally beyond political party should be resolved in the polling booth and not through the courts. So, Mr. DG, you are, as I know, just let me land on this if you don't mind.
Yes, go
on. The position as it is that whereas it is desirable and whereas it is consistent with all activities within a civilized societies, that disputations, disagreements are to be resolved either through ADR, getting to the emergence of the leadership of a political party. The courts, albeit the Supreme Court of Nigeria, had repeatedly insisted to resolve within the political parties and not burden the courts with the issue of elections and leadership of political parties.
So now what I'm wondering is, how then do we know which of the leadership is okay? For instance, now, does it mean as it stands now, it is any leadership that INEC recognizes that then becomes the authentic leadership of the party? Is that what, I mean, this would eventually amount to? Because INEC would just have to recognize one over the other.
Obviously, there is a challenge, and it is no use running away from it. Because in my view, it is almost an escape attempt, which will leave even the party with greater challenge. Now, the principle of law has been established, but to what extent does it deepen party politics as the only vehicle by which democracy can be delivered? In my view, it's already a problematic situation. Now, what the court has said from the snippets of the judgment that I have read is to the effect that the lower courts, i.e. the Federal High Court and Court of Appeal, ought to decline jurisdiction once they realize that the issue has to do with the leadership of the political party.
Yes.
If that is the position of the Supreme Court, which is the apex court, and mind you, Honorable Justice Chukwudifu, put our blessed memory, has always warned that we are infallible because we are final. It is just the fact of our finality that makes us infallible. What it presupposes is that they can be wrong as well. So where that leaves us is that it is now a combination of the effort of the political party, which is expected to be able to enthrone leadership seamlessly, for that matter, and the election monitoring bodies which is saddled with the responsibility of not just observing, but coordinating the activities of the political parties, that will be able to establish what the leadership of that political party is. So, but in very clear terms, that is already going to create sufficient crisis, because both contending parties are digging in and laying claim to the leadership of the party. And I don't personally see how they can wriggle out of this. Worst of the situation is that the Supreme Court has spoken. And you cannot now bring another matter up because with respect to the leadership of the political party, the Supreme Court has spoken. So I'm in sync with you to say that this is a big challenge. This is a big crisis. It has left the parties much more vulnerable than they were before they approached the court. And it's only going to be what INEC now says, as to who is the appropriate leadership of the Labour Party. But by and large, what I see is a very weakened Labour Party arising from this crisis that they've been unable to manage.
No doubt at all. Malaki Ugumadu, legal practitioner, thank you very much for talking to us, and thanks a lot for your time.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, that's how much we can take on the program. Well, thank you very much for watching. I'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.
في عدد كبير من المتهمين كانوا داخل السجون لفترات طويلة. عشان يحددوا لك الجلسة انت بتكون الليلة كاملة ما نمت. فنحن برضو بنجي نتكلم معاهم وبنطمنهم انه الحاجة اللي ربنا كاتبها لك ما بتفوتك، وانت قعدت زمن طويل ومنتظر اليوم ده. الليلة اليوم ده جاء وانت خليك جاهز له، والزمن اللي بديك له والقاضي ده زمن محدد. انت حاول تذكر فيه كل الأحداث واحكيها بنفس تفاصيلها عشان القاضي يقدر ياخذ قرار في الحاجة دي ويقدر يساعدك.
We hope that the government will prepare an implementation mechanism to ensure that the
On the news, Dangote refinery slashes ex-depot petrol price by 15 naira. Senate President Akpabio petitions IGP, demands Natasha's prosecution. And Kano Deputy Governor leads delegation to Edo State due to Iromi killings. It's glad to have you join us on the news on TV360 Nigeria. I'm Tamilore Akinkolie. The Dangote Petroleum Refinery has reduced its ex-depot price of petrol from 880 naira to 865 naira per litre. This 15 naira slash confirmed by refinery officials and reflected on petroleum price website is expected to lead to a drop in pump prices at major filling stations like MRS, Adova and Aden, bringing the retail price to around 910 naira per litre. The reduction follows a recent meeting between Dangote refinery representatives and Minister of Finance Wale Edun, during which the government reaffirmed the continuation of the Naira for crude policy to support local refinery and reduce pressure on the dollar. The Naira for crude policy, initiated by the Federal Executive Council in July 2024, mandates the NNPC to supply crude to local refineries, including Dangote, in Naira. Though temporarily suspended in March 2025 due to a 6-month expiry under the former NNPC leadership, the recent removal of Mele Kyari and the appointment of a new 11-man board by President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has revived the policy. With Dangote refinery now resuming Naira-based crude purchases, fuel price stability is expected to return, offering Nigerians some relief from skyrocketing petrol prices that had hit nearly 1,000 Naira per litre. Now, joining me to discuss this further is economist Akin Ogunshola. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Ogunshola. Now, what is your take on the revival of this Naira for crude policy? Do you think it would have a significant impact on Nigeria's local refinery capacity and also reduce dependence on foreign exchange?
Yeah, I think one of the impact of the Naira for crude deal that was suspended was that we saw the exchange rate, shooting up from 1,530 to about 1,680 naira. So the impact of this is that it will help to reduce the pressure on the dollar, and it will also help to reduce the price of petrol, which we have seen a 15% reduction in price of fuel from Dangote refineries today. So the impact will still be felt more, but as time goes on, when the contract and the supply is stable, then we'll see more reduction in the price of petroleum pump price.
Now, just like you said, the recent reduction in pump prices is attributed to this revival of Naira for crude policy. Now, how much of an effect would this have on inflation and the general cost of living in Nigeria?
Well, the effect to have on inflation is going to be a little drop in inflation. However, we've seen the food prices dropped sharply in the last month, but we still expect a further reduction as a result of the reduction in price of fuel. We also await the NNPC to also announce a reduction in their own pump price. This reduction will further reduce inflation. Probably it might not be a sharp one, the way Nigerians are anticipating and expecting, but it's going to be a very slight reduction.
All right. Thank you for lending in your thoughts as always, Mr. Akin Ogunshola. Thank you so much. Moving on to other stories, Senate President Godswill Akpabio has formally petitioned the Inspector General of Police, Kaide Egbetokun, over what he termed a criminally defamatory and inciting statement by Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, who accused him of plotting her assassination. And the petition, dated April the 3rd and copied to the Attorney General of the Federation, Lateef Fagbemi, Akpabio dismissed the claim, which he says is crafted to damage his reputation, incite unrest, and put his life life at risk. The allegation stems from a speech by Akpoti Uduaghan on April the 1st in Kogi State, where she claimed that Akpabio had directed former Governor Yaya Bello to eliminate her within the state, making it appear as an attack from a constituent. Akpabio described the allegation as politically motivated, lacking any credible evidence, and aimed at casting him as a political villain. He called for an immediate investigation by the police and urged the prosecution of Akpoti Uduaghan under laws addressing criminal defamation, incitement, and conduct likely to cause public disorder. The Lagos State Governance Advisory Council (GSC) has officially welcomed Abdulaziz Olajide Adediran, popularly known as Jandor, back into the All Progressive Congress (APC), marking his return to the party he once left. Jandor, the 2023 governorship candidate of the People's Democratic Party and convener of the Lagos for Lagos movement, was received by top APC leaders. The symbolic reunion took part in Saudi Arabia during the ongoing pilgrimage. In a statement released by a spokesperson, Jandor emphasized that the meeting reflected the ruling party's values of collective responsibility and synergy. And a high-powered committee led by Kano State Deputy Governor Aminu Abdulazam Gwazo departed for Edo State on Thursday to investigate the recent killings in Urumi village. The tragic incident, which occurred last month, has escalated tensions within the community. Tasked with a fact-finding and peace-building mission, the committee includes notable figures. The committee was formed in response of growing concerns over the violent attacks, which has claimed several lives and displaced many residents, including Kano indigents. During their week-long visit, the committee plans to meet with Edo State Governor, security agencies, traditional rulers, and civil society organizations. This initiative is part of a broader effort by the Northern Governors Forum to address rising insecurities across Nigeria and foster national unity. And former presidential candidate and human rights activist Omoyele Sowore has condemned the recent spate of killings in Plateau and Borno State, accusing Nigeria's security agencies of gross negligence. Leading a peaceful protest at the police force headquarters in Abuja, Sowore criticized the Inspector General of Police, Kaede Egbetokun, for what it described as the Nigeria police force failure to act decisively against rising insecurity. Sowore further alleged that the IGP's tenure has expired and questioned why President Bola Ahmed Tinubu continues to retain him with other officers of the same rank who have retired. He called for Egbetogun's immediate removal and demanded the appointment of a new police chief capable of restoring public confidence and strengthening the country's internal security architecture.
Over 60 persons were killed in Plateau State last week. Yes. It is after they were killed that Egbetokun decided that he will mobilize the tactical squads. What happened to intelligence gathering? Is it the intelligence department only for tracking social media critics of the government? How is it that the Nigeria police force cannot gather intelligence and know that 60 people will be massacred in Plateau? The same thing happened in Katsina. We are hearing today that the Borno governor has come out and said they are losing Borno State to Boko Haram all over again. And you have an IG who is retired and tired, who has refused to leave office. Borno State is back in the hands of Boko Haram. Don't let anybody deceive you. It is not the job of the army to be fighting internal security. It's the job of the police. But the police that is headed by a person who is tired and who has retired cannot have the morale to fight crime or fight insecurity or terrorism. That is what we are saying. That you cannot hold the destiny of the Nigerian police force and its institution to one man.
The Understate Police Command has recovered 3 headless cubs from a river in Odigbo local government area, sparking shock and fear among residents. The decomposing bodies, some found lodged on the river banks, were discovered on Wednesday by locals who immediately raised the alarm. Eyewitnesses suspect the victims may have been murdered by kidnappers and dumped in the river. Police spokesperson Ayonlade Olayinka confirmed the gruesome find and stated the detectives from the Oro division were dispatched to the scene as soon as the case was reported. The bodies were subsequently taken to the morgue at the General Hospital. Now, despite a effort to involve local leaders in identifying the victims, no one has come forward so far. Olayinka noted that the area shares border with Ogun and Edo states, and investigators believe the bodies may have been transported from another location before being dumped. Lawmakers from the Northeast has voiced their concerns over the region's exclusion from the federal government's Special Agro-Industrial Processing Zone program. In a press briefing following an emergency meeting at the National Assembly in Abuja, senators and House of Representative members from Adamawa, Bauchi, Borno, Gombe, Taraba and Yobe states criticized the omission, calling it unacceptable given the region's significant agricultural potential. Despite being the largest geopolitical zone by landmass and a major contributor to livestock and crop production, the Northeast was excluded from the program, which covers 7 states and the FCT. The lawmakers, led by representatives, decried what they describe as a consistent pattern of marginalization in federal projects and appointments.
We are extremely worried that our zone is excluded completely from the SAPZ program, regarded as a presidential priority project and a direct response to long-standing challenges facing Nigeria's agricultural value chain, including poor infrastructure, limited access to markets, and low value chain addition. Lament the exclusion of the Northeast geopolitical zone from the processing zones, despite its enormous agricultural potential, cutting across all sector value chains in the country. 3, appeal for the immediate inclusion of the Northeast Geographical Zone in the Special Agro-Industrial Processing Zones, SAPZ. This is not only for fairness and inclusivity, but for the actualization of the lofty ideals of the present administration to industrialize Nigeria's agricultural sector and create sustainable jobs in the country.
Northeast sub-region, as earlier highlighted, used to be the poor of the poorest region even before the advent of the insurgents, that is the Boko Haram. And our situation was further worsened by the activities of the insurgents. So if there is a single zone, as far as this country is concerned, that should be given the attention, the required attention, particularly with regards to issue of development and so on and so forth, is Northeast, because stability of one zone is a function of the stability of the other zones. In other words, stability of Northeast sub-region is very, very critical and important to the stability of the remaining 5 geopolitical zones in the country. So this is why whenever we see where we are being shortchanged, there is a need for us to draw the attention of the policymakers that we still exist as human beings and we deserve to be treated as.
The Nigeria Union of Journalists and NUJ FCT Council is set to make history with a Guinness World Record attempt for the longest interviewing marathon as part of this year's World Press Freedom Day celebrations. The 72-hour event, themed Nigeria Our Strength, will take place from April 17 to 20th, 2025 at Arupa Golf Club in Abuja. Convened by media advocate Livinus Chibuike Victor, the marathon aims to spotlight the critical role journalists play in shaping democracy, promoting accountability, and amplifying marginalized voices.
Despite the increasing threats to press freedom across the world, including censorship, harassment, and violence against journalists, journalists continue to carry out their mission with courage and integrity. As misinformation spreads and trust in the institution wavers, professional journalism remains a vital defense against disinformation and manipulation. This press release underscores a call to protect press freedom, invest in quality journalism, stop the harassment of journalists, and recognize the indispensable role of journalists in fostering open societies.
Press freedom is not a privilege. It is a fundamental pillar of democracy, and protecting this freedom is our collective responsibility as journalists, policymakers, and citizens of the world. The media landscape is evolving, no doubt. Technology has opened new frontiers for storytelling, access to information, and engagement with audiences. Yet, it also presents challenges: the spread of misinformation, the weaponization of fake news, and the erosion of public trust in the media. As journalists, we must embrace innovation while holding firmly.
It's time for a short break, but due to common news now, death toll in Dominican nightclub disaster rises to 218. Details of the story will be brought to you right after this break. Welcome back. Now let's give you a quick recap of some of our top stories. The Dangote Petroleum Refinery has reduced its ex-depot price of petrol from 880 naira to 865 naira per litre. The reduction follows a recent meeting between Dangote Refinery representative and the Minister of Finance Wale Edun, during which the government reaffirms the continuation of the naira for crude policy to support local refining and reduce pressure on the dollar. We also told you that a high-powered committee led by Kano State Deputy Governor Aminu Abdulsalam departed for Edo State on Thursday to investigate the recent killings in Uromi village. The committee was formed in response to growing concerns over the violent attacks, which has claimed several lives and displaced many residents, including Kano indigents. Now, in case you missed any of the news bulletin or for more updates, you can catch us on Lime's World TV and AVO TV or log on to our website on www.tv360nigeria.com. You can also follow us on our social media platforms on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at TV360 Nigeria, or download our mobile app on Google Play Store, Huawei App Gallery, and Apple Store. On Facebook, we're at TV360 Online. It's time for business news, and Opayemi Owosheni is on standby to give us more updates. Over to you, Opayemi.
Thank you, Tamilore, and welcome to business news. The Nigerian government says it is planning to launch an electronic visa system on May 1, 2025. The Minister of Aviation and Aerospace Development, Festus Keyamo, announced the development during a joint briefing with the Minister of Interior, Olubunmi Tunji-Ojo. In a statement announcing the initiative, Keyamo said the ministries also plan to digitalize the landing and exit card at International Airport. Keyamo said the intervention will be carried out by the Ministry of Aviation as well as the Ministry of Interior. The Director General of the World Trade Organization, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, says the United States and China's trade war could reduce global gross domestic product by 7%. On Wednesday, United States President Donald Trump raised China's tariff rate from 104% to 125% and paused tariffs for dozens of other countries. Now, in a statement on Wednesday, Okonjo-Iweala said the U.S. and China accounted for 3% of world trade combined. According to her, the escalating trade war between the two economic giants will slash trade between both countries by up to 80%. The DG warned that the conflict could severely damage the global economic outlook. We'll go on a break now. I'll be back with stock market updates. Welcome back. Now, Nigeria's equities market routed north on Thursday by 0.58% as investors bought mostly banking, insurance, consumer goods and oil and gas stock. That's despite muted pressure on industrial stocks. The record positive close on Thursday moderated this week's dip to 0.69% and this month's decline to 0.83%, while strengthening the returns this year to 1.81%. Now, Captain increased from 2 naira 10 kobo to 2 naira 31 kobo, adding 21 kobo in the process. Now, it was followed by FVGD Group after its price rose from 72 naira 60 kobo to 79 naira 80 kobo. Now, at the close of trading in 12,027 deals, stock traders exchanged 432 million shares valued at 9.71 billion naira. Now, on the foreign scene, as selected global equities closed with mixed outcomes as the UK FTSE and Japan's Nikkei ended in bullish territory. It's a different case, however, for the United States Dow Jones as stocks fell on Thursday, giving back half of the gains from the historic rally seen in the previous session after President Donald Trump announced a 90-day reprieve on some of his reciprocal tariffs. Now, in the parallel market, the naira depreciated further against major foreign currencies, trading at 1,610 naira against the US dollar, 2,060 naira against the pound, and 1,730 naira against the euro. That's it on both business and stock market updates. Back to you, Tamilore, for the rest of the news.
Thank you for that update, Opayemi. And on the global scene, the European Commission has announced a 90-day pause on its retaliatory measures against the United States, but also issued a pointed warning to President Donald Trump regarding ongoing trade tensions. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen made the statement following Trump's surprise decision to suspend steep tariff on dozens of countries for the same 90-day period. The move triggered a wave of relief across global financial markets, with the FTSE surging more than 6% shortly after trading opened as investors welcomed the temporary de-escalation. However, the U.S. president simultaneously intensified pressures on China, raising tariffs on Chinese import from 104 to a staggering 125%, further escalating the trade dispute between the world's two largest economies. And the death toll from the devastating roof collapse at the Jet Set nightclub in San Domingo, Dominican Republic, has risen to 218, according to the latest update from officials, as the focus shifts from rescue to recovery. The tragic collapse occurred early Tuesday morning while the iconic Lights Club was packed with musicians, professional athletes, and government officials. Witnesses said dust began falling from the ceiling and into